Hey guys, Spiritual Living on this channel is for educational purposes only and it's not intended as financial advice. Just gonna plug the BraveNewCoin YouTube channel real quick. I'll put this playlist in the description of this video just to let everybody know. Some people always ask for more videos, so I'm doing more videos for BraveNewCoin, talking about some of the stuff in every article I write. I write 3 a week for BraveNewCoin. All right. First, let me talk about time horizon, because I always post a video saying we're bullish or bearish, and it always does the opposite thing 5 minutes later. Unlike most people, I think, based on the comments in the YouTube videos, I'm not concerned with the 30-minute time frame or 5 minutes from now because I'm trading on 100x leverage. Like, that should be the least of your concern. Everything I'm talking about here has 3 to 6 months as far as what my thinking is time frame and time horizon. So don't get it twisted that I'm like super bullish this second, because that's not the case. Just to let everybody know. We're getting there. We're more bullish than we've been since June, July, for sure, across the board. You don't need me to say that, to tell you. I'm going to provide some evidence and support as to why I believe we are the most bullish we've been in 6 months. But that doesn't mean we won't see 25% pullbacks, because that's just what happens. All right, let's look at some boring stuff first. The futures premium creeping up again. This is the quarterly and the weekly futures premium on OKEX versus spot. To be expected, perhaps, based on us moving up pretty violently since this inverted head and shoulders. Again, I don't want this to be massively overblown like it was here. That's another huge warning sign that we're overbought. This rally isn't going to last, that sort of thing. You're always looking for extremes in premium or negative premium, whatever, to help you navigate the trading waters, if you will. Looking at the BTC Coinbase versus Bitfinex, we sort of lost our Coinbase premium. I don't really know what to think about that, other than we're definitely bullish if we have it, and we're just whatever if we don't. So clearly we'd rather see that than not see it. There's some shenanigans going on with some people on Bitfinex as far as whales holding the book back one way or the other, which is partially why we had this premium on Coinbase. But you always want to see cash leading over Tether leading, I think. Just we want to see new money coming in. And if it's Coinbase leading, then it's not Tether. It can't be Tether, right? It can be USDC, but it can't be Tether. Speaking of Tether, we have continued the streak of being below $1. Again, there might be some shenanigans here that I'm not completely understanding or abreast of, but us being below $1, I don't see as bullish on Tether. I want Tether a buck and a penny, or a buck and 1.001 or something. Below $1 just doesn't make sense to me. If we're bullish, we should be above $1. There should be demand for Tether. People should be happy to pay a premium for it if they want to get in the market. And if Tether's below $1, they should be buying it and selling it higher. Like, it just, none of this makes sense to me. All right, that's Tether. CME futures rollover the 31st this week, end of the week. Should be some increased volatility around that date, as there usually has been over the past year. And again, the overarching 3 to 6 month biannual contract should be bullish. We're now plus 25% or more at this point since the open. I don't think we're going to go lower than the open in this contract period. I just don't think it's going to happen. And again, since the contract started, it's either been down or up. It's really been binary. It hasn't been wishy-washy back and forth one way or the other. As far as at least the end date, the end dates have been pretty obvious as far as where we're headed during the contract, throughout the contract. So June 26th, that's our moon time. Looking at halving and the weekly cloud and RSI. So if we put everything together, I was just thinking to myself, where are we in the cloud on the previous halvings? What's happened as far as consolidation, being in the weekly? So you can see here, it's pretty clear, like the past 2 halvings, we've been in the weekly cloud. This is obviously the massive ascending triangle, and this was the Bitfinex hack. So the long and the short is, I don't expect this to just go to infinity until after halving at the earliest. If you're one of those people who thinks halving is priced in, then you can short it or whatever, but I don't think that's going to be the case this time, as it wasn't the case the past 2 times. So until that's wrong, there's no reason to think it's correct, right? It's not correct. RSI, we're above 50, which is good. As far as, we're bullish, we're above 50, we're bearish, we're below 50, we're consolidating above 50. That's fine. That says we're in bull territory. The fact that we're not blown out to 80, 90 says that there's plenty of room for upside. Weeks and weeks of upside left. Copious amounts of upside remaining, says the RSI. I would like to see volume perk back up. I don't know if we will. It's hard for me to know volume because, do we have less volume at a higher price and more volume at a lower price? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm just have some backwards thinking. Obviously at lower prices we had more volume. Even in the bubble time, we had pretty significant volume. So does volume just continue to drop off as prices go higher? I don't know. Something to think about when you're looking at volume as far as making trading decisions off of it. The other thing I'm looking at is the weekly 20 SMA, which is the midline of the Bollinger B bands. And the previous bull run we had last year never retouched the bands and tested it and continued. It sort of just walked up the band week after week after week and then fell through the band week after week after week. If this is an extended real deal bull rally, we want to see week after week of testing this over and over and over and over again as support. So that's something I'll be looking for within this 3 to 6 month period. How bullish are we? Are we going to start testing this 200 as support, or are we just going to fade through it like we did here, fade through it like we did here, fade, where was the other one? Fade through it like we did this time. That's what I don't want to see, obviously. You don't want to see supports breaking if you're bullish. You want to see supports being held. You want to see strong wicks. You want to see strong buying momentum off of that support, which we had all throughout 2016, 2017. So definitely something to watch going forward. Looking at the cloud. Now this is definitely some of the most bullish continuation cloud shape that you want to see. You want to see thin stuff continuously. You want to see cloud thin if you're bullish. If you were bearish down here, the issue was cloud is thick, which says we went down quick and then we went sideways. When we go down quick and then we go sideways, then it's a 50-50, unless there's some sort of pattern here. But that just says we're reconsolidating for a decision. Here it says the trend has changed completely. We are above the dynamic resistance and we're going to turn it into support should we remain above 85. It would not surprise me in the least if we return to 85 between now and before halving. There's going to be key June bounces. There usually is, unless it's uber bullish like it was here. Then you see this mixture of Tenkin bounces and patterns, bullish reversal pattern, bullish continuation patterns, or failed bearish reversal patterns, stuff like that. Even here, we got denied at the cloud and the key June and went back down, right? Here, we're starting to see Tenkin bounces, which is super bullish. One thing I don't like when I look at this and I'm bullish is the TK spread, this blue and red line here. I want to see the TK lines much closer together. If I'm bullish, I want to see price much closer to those TK lines as well. I don't want to see this massively overbought on the daily. Another important thing here, we tested the 200 and we confirmed it as support versus previously tested the 200 and we just kept going, right? This is plus token selling most likely, at least part of it. But in this case, we didn't have that. We didn't have any bearish reversals. We didn't have any people saying, all right, we're at the 200 again, it's time to sell. None of that stuff. Very good signs. All this very good signs if you're bullish. If you're bearish, you're probably a little sad right now because we haven't really given you any chance to make any money aside from this falling wedge situation. But, it's been inverted head and shoulder, ascending triangle, falling wedge, and then this is the third drive. There's some bear div. I'll talk about that in a second. But again, we're getting this golden cross on the daily. These don't happen very often. On the daily, historically, this is maybe the 6th one. I don't really remember. I have to look back. I should know. I'm a bad Bitcoiner, a bad price analyst, not knowing this off the top of my head. But, like we were talking about here, we get a golden cross for bullish. Everybody knows that. They teach people that in preschool. Okay, golden cross is bullish, 50 to the 200. Just like the death cross was bearish. And you're going to get articles saying that it's bullish. You're going to get articles saying that the golden cross is lagging signal, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. We're going to get a pullback to 85-ish eventually, or 88. My guess is it's going to be between 8888 and 85. You can see the 200 is going to keep creeping up. Even if we go sideways, it'll keep creeping up to around 85. That's fine. You know, I don't expect, because of all the massive selling here and the massive consolidation we had here, there's going to be a lot of selling interest at 10K again, I think. Unless there's some coronavirus craziness and everybody's seeking a safe haven. But other than that, I think there's going to be a lot of short selling or asks at 10K. You know, another weird thing to watch for is if there's some sort of vaccine or cure for this coronavirus thing that comes out and then stocks perk up again and BTC reverses. Like, that's something to watch for as well. Looking at Pitchfork and yearly pivots, this is exactly what I want to see if I'm bullish. We're gliding, skipping off the bottom here of the Pitchfork, returning towards the median line, which at this point is definitely above 13. It's probably above 14 at this point, but the Pitchfork doesn't care where price is at, right? It's just looking at the rate of change. So since 2015, the rate of change has been this. I believe it's going to continue to be this until it isn't. So we've bounced, we're making patterns over and over again, markup, Wyckoff, whatever you want to call it. And we've even bounced off the yearly pivot at this point to the upside, just like bouncing off the 200. Very bullish in my mind. It's none of this wishy-washy stuff, right? We're not like, oh, it's resistance. No, it's not resistance. No, it's not support. And then, oh my gosh, we're through everything, right? Even the same case here over and over again, you know, there was no deciding factor. Not like here, right? Strong bounce off the pivot. Strong bounce off the pivot. That's what I want to see. So just if I'm just trading pivots, my target's 13. If I'm trading Pitchfork, my target's above that to this yellow line, median line. So again, very bullish. More evidence for the bulls. Looking at Alligator and Fractal, I'm just going to keep hitting you. Just slapping you over the head with my shoe of bullishness, okay? Here we are on the 13, 8, and 5 MA, or whatever it is. It's a moving average thing. And they've all flipped bullish. This is what you want to see. Green, red, blue. And you want to see us breaking these, I call them bullish pivots, bullish fractals, whatever. So how you trade this is you wait for the trend to make a decision, and then you go long above the previous bullish fractal because it matches the trend. Bullish fractal, higher high. You go long, you hold it until you make a higher high. We didn't make a higher high. This is your stop. You're stopped out here. You're not in a long. You're once again in a long up here, and your stop's down here. So that your stop's around 82 or something like that. And you're just long and holding at this point. There's been no fractal since, last month, a couple weeks ago at this point. So we're definitely still waiting. It's also good to see this 3 white soldiers pattern. Don't see that too often. 3 days where the wicks of the day, or it's full bodied. The wicks don't encapsulate the previous day, right? So we just make higher highs each day. Massive bodies, that sort of thing. Very bullish, definitely. Similar to here. Very bullish. This is the one bearish thing that I'm concerned about in the near term, if I'm, long on leverage, is seeing a bit of a bearish divergence form here. We're getting a lower high in volume. I'd call this an exaggerated bearish divergence on RSI. There's not a clean lower high here, and this can obviously keep going and just blow this out completely, but there's definitely waning bullish momentum here. Really confusing, the bear and the bull stuff today. Let's switch to ETH. Not as bullish as BTC. Alts have done extremely well over the past couple of weeks, especially a few alts. Again, just like the BTC Pitchfork, this is going to be my guiding light for bullishness. I want to see it return to this median line. In the near term, it looks like it's bounced off this low, and it's gonna do some stuff. The most important thing for me for ETH right now is that it bounced off this 150 to 160 zone, hopefully confirming it as support. Like here we had support, and then it just blew through, right? Resistance, support, right? That's what you want to see. And we want to see this as support and move up at this point. Let bygones be bygones. Let the no man's land be the no man's land. We're even above the 200 EMA. There's a little bit of volume resistance up here around 210, something like that. I think ETH is going to take a while, unless there's some massive catalyst, because the DeFi stuff is going in overdrive at this point. Everybody's locking in everybody else's ETH, and there's going to be all this stuff for ETH. It's just like, it doesn't really do anything other than let you trade ETH more or borrow ETH to let people trade more. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the whole DeFi narrative just yet. But from the technicals, definitely looking more bullish than it has, again, since June, July. We're starting to get this movement above the EMAs. Golden Cross will take at least 2 weeks, I think, at this point. Similar to BTC, again, above the cloud. This looks really good for bullish entry. Let's say you're not trading leverage. Let's say you're just DCAing. You're waiting for that dollar cost average when we turn bullish on the trend. There are many ways to skin the DCA cat. One of them would have been to buy on the way down. Another one is to buy when we're bullish on trend. Whatever you want to do. It's your money, right? But either way, the trend here is clear. This is going to turn bullish very quickly. Again, wouldn't be surprised if this drops a little bit before it actually makes its move. We get this Kijun bounce stuff. Even here we had this ascending triangle, and it broke the resistance, and then it came back to the Kijun, and then it took off. Similar thing here, similar thing to BTC. Just confirming these supports as supports and not wishy-washy resistance sort of thing. That's where the buyers come in. That's where the trend begins. It also wouldn't surprise me if we see this massive inverted head and shoulders on ETH. There's a messy one on BTC as well. I'm not quite sold on that one, but it's certainly possible. This one doesn't look great either, but it's certainly possible that it stalls at 200 and then eventually makes its way to 230, 240 after confirming 200 as support, that sort of thing. Similar to here. There's a lot of weirdness up here as far as volume is concerned. Volume and price action. My guess is if you have a massive ETH treasury and you're an ICO and you're seeing it break 200, you're like, okay, it's time to sell. Unless you're one of those people who's a massive bull on ETH and you're like, okay, this is going to keep going. This is a trend. But for the most part, I think most of the ETH treasuries at this point are years old. So these companies are running out of runway and they're looking at liquidating their treasury to support the business, I think. Probably where they're at. ETH BTC, like I mentioned last video or a couple of videos ago, just kind of meandering around nothingness. This looks very different than the USD pairs do, obviously. It's just middling on lows here. I don't see a pattern or anything that can save this at this point. This doesn't mean it's going to puke out to zero, but it's going to need to be above the 200, above the cloud, above this VPVR support resistance node. There's just massive volume congestion here that it needs to make a decision on, one or the other, if it's going to be a tradable range. I just don't see this as a tradable range, personally. I do think if it goes above the 200, it'll revisit the 0.025, this next VPVR zone, these previous local lows, historic lows, that sort of thing. No bull or bear div here. And lastly, I just want to mention the Dogecoin. Pretty neat squeeze on the weekly. Historically, it's only ever happened twice this tight. Both have been bearish. This is also currently bearish. How I would read this, though, is if we're above 33 sats, it's off to the races. That's all she wrote. It'll go very quickly. Not saying I'm going to trade this. Not saying I'll buy this. I'm just saying, based on the tech, 33 is the move. If it's above 33, that's what you want to see if you're bullish. Otherwise, if you want to DCA in Doge through 20 weeks, more power to you. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.